Ladies and gentlemen, at Kinguin Pro League 2015, we're about to be casting the last match of the day. We've had a really intense day so far, 5 matches done, really high level plays, and we have next up Hyped versus Dog. Both players doing amazingly well so far in the entire league, 2-0, and they're going to be getting, either of them is going to be getting their first loss, and we're going to be seeing who that is. We have the lineups for the players, I believe.
Yeah, surprisingly, once again, Hyped is not going to be running with a rogue, which is very surprising for those of you out there who know Hyped very well. This guy is an excellent rogue player and certainly one of the better ones out there, and if not the top one, is kind of where he stands as far as rogue is concerned. He's bringing Hunter, Mage, and Druid again, and I think this is probably kind of in line with how much he had to practice while he was out in China playing for that event. So
that's definitely possible.
Yeah, maybe not having a lot of time to prepare specifically for his opponents, and instead of just choosing decks that he thinks are very powerful. And maybe he feels like his opponent's going to be targeting rogue again because he's such a known rogue player that it's really easy to target him in that vein. So trying to throw a curveball a bit in there is probably something else that's going to be happening. Dog, he's going to be going with Druid, Mage, and Rogue. And something before we get too much into the matchup analysis is that I have to say that I think that these two players are the two best players out there who don't have a very decorated tournament resume.
And yeah, I would also say that on top of being that, they're also the two. I personally view Dog as an excellent rogue player. I'd say Hyped and Dog are my top 2 rogue players on a personal level. And it's funny that both of them don't have any big tournament wins to their name yet, despite the fact that they're excessively skilled and they're very consistent in the way that they play.
Yeah, it's definitely a big point to be making. Something else, too, I guess this is one last little bit about not playing Rogue for Hyped, is that these guys did spend a lot of time in China playing together, so there's a chance that he's not playing Rogue because Dog would know that he's going to play Rogue. And so everything that kind of happens when you fall into those situations really spells out the ability to exploit the fact that Hyped that you would expect him to be playing Rogue. So all of those things that really come into consideration when he tries to figure out his lineup for an event like this.
So we are being told that Hyped is going to be picking his first deck is going to be as Hunter, and Dog is going to be picking up his Rogue, which means if Hyped decided to make a good read and went for a hyper-aggressive Hunter, Dog might get punished for having that Rogue around. I mean, Face Hunter is just so strong against Rogue.
Usually is. You have to find an aggressive start with Rogue.
Yeah, it's one of those things with, I mean, I remember the Miracle Rogue was very well known. You know, when Miracle was around, the perfect counterplay was just Face Hunter. You played the most aggressive Hunter possible, and Rogues couldn't even get started. Like, they got to turn 5 with Gadget's hand, and the game was over already. You already had it. So unless the Hunter gets a really slow start, that's generally pretty favored for the Hunter. And Hyped, queuing with the Hunter first, might be making a decent read there. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, but something more mid-range, I think he could suffer a lot from it. But definitely. Not the worst thing in the world. I am seeing, though, that next Tuesday, Kinguin Pro League has a pretty darn good lineup there.
Yeah, it's one of the... Yeah, we have 6 matches again for next Tuesday. So, I mean, the Kinguin Pro League as a whole is stacked with high-level players. We're going to be giving the schedule after the last match is complete. But it's definitely something you're going to be wanting to tune in with. And the second match of that day is going to be a very interesting one as far as the meaning of it, I think.
Yeah, so game 1 getting underway here. And Piloted Shredder really tells me this is not a face on, and Freezing Trap probably cements that notion in my mind that this is not a face hunter.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on the Metal Tooth Leaper decks, but besides Gara, I don't think I've seen anybody really try it out.
Metal Tooth. Is that the mech guy that gives all the mechs +2 power?
You remember?
+2 attack?
Yeah, it is. That's him, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only hunter mech. It's so hard to forget what it was. I mean, you probably could have just said the
hunter mech.
You could have said any what's the word for elements that refer to heavy metals? Is there a word for this? Not paying attention.
Alloy.
Sure, we'll say you could have said any alloy style word, and then any sort of animal related thing that they have on their body, like I don't know, fang or claw, and then you could have just said any animal afterwards, and I probably would have said the mech, the hunter mech that gives a +2 attack.
Yeah, the Spidertron.
You could have just said the tin clawed monkey, and I'd have been like, oh, the hunter mech, yeah.
Yeah, I know that one. I played with it quite a bit. Somebody tells us it's a banned steel panther. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's anything like you probably could have just said like a metal, a thing, and an animal, and I probably still would have gotten it right. Any animal, it's so hunter.
All right. So we're looking at Hyped going for the Huffer play here, not playing the juggler into the pop the spiders because that plays very heavily into the fan of knives. Obviously, you don't want to be doing that in this position.
Yeah, something that does really benefit Hyped here
The
is
other
that he is an excellent rogue player, and so he knows what he's supposed to be looking for against a matchup like this. Like things to be looking out for are really on his mind.
So
And this is
tinctures, wow.
yeah, these are those aggressive starts. These are those really aggressive starts that Rogue wants to really try to punish. Druid just trying to have heavy early scaling.
Knife juggler is going to have to come out here, I believe, because otherwise, how exactly are you going to be dealing with that 6-3? You have to pop the spiders and hope for the best.
I think he's pretty happy about the knife juggler here.
Yeah, definitely.
It's more often than not going to get the job done. Especially he's got to land one knife. So yeah, there it is. And obviously,
even get more
both of these would be big.
The whiff, slight whiff, but a whiff nonetheless.
That one burns. Dog's still not in the best shape though.
No, well, never mind.
And Cleef is not too shabby. I'm curious if he's actually just going to push for more face damage. Because like, what does taking out a token do? And since you drew the Van Cleef, I think you want to make your stuff bigger.
So backstab Van Cleef is a 4/4.
I don't know. I think you could make an argument for prepping, but how much difference does it make? It's
on the sprint, it makes a ton.
It's probably better to play SI7 agent.
Yeah, I'd venture to say that as well.
Yeah, he's going to just go ahead and do the combat math. Like he's going to look over the next couple of turns and add this up and see if it makes a difference to play Van Cleef or play SI7 agent.
Mm-hmm. Well, he goes for the 4/4 Van Cleef and is probably just going to push for phase damage. You're trying to get that hunter down as soon as possible. The problem with this position from him now is that Sledge Belcher is going to put a huge stop to this board. Unless he finds a sap, the ongoing aggression is not even likely.
Yeah, Sledge Belcher doing a number here. Lotheb is not an impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, Lotheb is definitely not an impossibility. When you've seen your opponent kind of an aggressive opening, you may anticipate spells from them. So, pay your 4 points of life, try to take out this Van Cleef afterwards, and then move from there. But your opponent's only got 2 cards in hand, too. So there's just a pretty good likelihood that they just don't have it.
Hyped is probably pinning Dog on a sprint because he emptied his hand so fast. But there is no sprint, so...
There's not really much of a range that was telling here, honestly.
Yeah, it's just the fact that he dumps his entire hand without a word.
He does. He doesn't have Phantom Knives.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have Blade Flurry.
That would have been a sick play here for Dog. That prep Blade Flurry into Van Cleef would have been disgusting. All right, Sludge Belcher, and the good thing, what I like about Belcher is that the follow-up Lotheb blocks the sprint on turn 7.
All right, so Lotheb does. I mean, this is the nod to. Hey, I do believe that if you have Sap, I am going to lose the game if I play the Sludge Belcher. So, here's Lotheb instead.
And they're doing Farseer surprisingly good. Gonna buy him just a bit of time, which might be exactly what he needs in this.
I think this 2 damage is going face. I really do. He's already got his opponent. I mean, he's got his opponent down so low. He just, he's looking for the final points of damage.
Yep. And Hyped will have pretty decent removal. I mean, I guess you might consider using one of your dagger charges on a 1/1. And what that does is it prevents the 1/1. Like, one of your 3/3s is essentially going to stay up in theory. In theory.
Yeah. I still like. Oh, yeah, I mean, it does keep one of the 3/3s alive.
Well, not with that. Yeah. You're probably going to be seeing a Sludge Belcher. If you go for Unleash, can you wipe the board? You can kill... No, exactly. You're going to be one off of killing one of the 3/3s.
The more I think about it, the more I actually do like keeping the 3/3s around, because if your opponent plays something like Sludge Belcher, it's important to be able to start running through it.
Yep. Well, we're going to see what Dog finds. A Sap is going to be very strong for him, and he finds this...
Oh my gosh, that is a huge draw right now. Dog isn't even going to prep, and I agree.
Oh,
you just draw your cards.
Crazy for him. You get a backstab, you can trade, you can then kill the slime and go face for 3 damage. That sets up a perfect eviscerate or, spell damage shift to the face. This is insane.
Gosh, what?
This is insane.
Draw.
And he gets this is probably going to be a lethal next turn. There's nothing, I think, that Hyped has.
This is absolute madness.
Wow. That's kind of why I preferred Lotheb on turn 6 to deny the sprint.
Use a Sergeant can buy him a turn, maybe if he doesn't have any damage.
But he has damage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we can just see Dog's hand. He's got all the damage in the world.
Wow, that was a sick sprint top deck. And then again, I can't fault Hyped for the way that he played, but I think the Sludge Belcher first was probably the better way to deny the sprint, but the problem with that is if he has a sap, he takes even more damage in the immediate sense, so his line of play was very consistent with good thinking either way.
Yeah, so Dog, man, taking on that game one, that's aggressive play for you right there.
Yeah, I didn't think he'd do that, but that's insane.
He couldn't fight for value really at any point in the game. He didn't really have the tools to buy himself a tempo, like assuredly. You know, this rogue deck typically, I don't really think it wants to just completely fight for the board that much anyway. Again, it's looking for strong tempo plays. The goal of this deck is to play minions while killing your opponent's minions and dealing your opponent damage. So when you start splitting your damage up, you really start to see how much of a difference it makes. Is when you get down to the later stages of the game, just count up all your damage. Sometimes you realize you have a lot more than you thought you did. You'll just kind of be like, oh, I can deal him 18 damage in 2 turns, and he's at 15, but he has a really scary board out. Like, if they can't kill you, you usually can just kill them. It's hard to set up a defense against stuff like Blade Flurry.
Yeah, you really can't, and this is probably why, in fact, he went for the low-tap play instead, because he knew that if Blade Flurry would come down, he was, like, Sludge Belcher was essentially irrelevant at that point, which made a lot of sense. So, we're going to be seeing Dog going to either his Druid or Mage. Apparently, he's going to be playing Druid. It's probably one of the classes that he's most comfortable with. I know that he's a very good rogue player, but he was first known for his Zombie Chow Ramp Druid. That's where I heard about him first. That's the first foray, I guess, into the popular Hearthstone, at least the Reddit scene, that he made. And that was a pretty strong deck at the time. I don't know that Ramp Druid is especially tailored to the metagame nowadays, but it's definitely a pretty solid deck.
Yeah, it's one of those decks, again, sort of like Base Hunter. It's really good when people don't know that, or don't ever account for that deck being there. So, when no one's playing Hunter's Marks, when people don't have 2 Ironbeak Owls in their Hunter decks all the time, when Black Knight's not really getting played, those are the kinds of situations where Ramp Druid can really stand out. But there's a lot of easy counters to it. So to see him play Ramp Druid, I'd be a little bit surprised by it too, especially given the way that he played that rogue deck. I would venture to say that this is going to be leaned towards aggressive play in Savage Wars and Force of Natures.
Yeah, he's been playing a lot of that recently. So apparently Hyped is going to be playing his Druid versus Dog. Hyped is going to be playing his Mage, versus Dog's Druid, which is, I think, a good lineup, because if you know that your opponent Dog has either Druid or Mage, if you pick Mage, at worst you have a 50-50. If you're facing off against Druid, you have a slightly better matchup. But Dog's hand with that Innervate and the Keeper of the Grove, exceptionally well tailored to deal with the early aggression of Mage.
Hype still the mad scientist there. I'm sure he's drawing a portrait right now, of a lifelike portrait of himself with that pen that he just had. Most of you didn't know this. Actually, Hyped this. I'm serious about this. Hyped can draw lifelike portraits of people with his feet.
With his feet?
Yeah.
I didn't know he could do it with his feet.
Yeah. Most people can, from what I know.
I mean, I'm able to do it. That's what I do before I go to bed. It really relaxes me. It's like a feet rub, right? Like feels good. Water Elemental. Well, that's going to be a tricky one to remove. Do you just go for turn 1 Shredder? I mean, I don't see why I wouldn't. Worst case scenario, gets Frostbolted.
It is going to hurt his curve a little bit, but the amount of damage that you get from turn 1 Shredder, I think, justifies it.
Yeah. And you're putting it out before Meritity comes out, and like in the worst case scenario.
Yes, and you're still squeezing hero power, so if your opponent plays something like a Noyatron, you're not too worried about it. You can just kill it straight away. I mean, in this position, there's Frostbolt. I was just about to say, in this position, there's not really a great answer to it.
A great answer, yeah.
Well, we've seen Millhouse today. The Knife Juggler's still pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's a pretty annoying minion, but Dog needs to find a shade of Nax or Wrath for next turn. He wants to be able to curve. He really does want to. I'm sure he would, getting free Drake. Wow.
Just second Frostbolt. Just why not?
I like Michael Warper and Noyatron a lot better, though.
I do, and the reason why is because Hype. I mean, he knows that Dog's not going to be playing a bunch of minions. He's not. He knows that he's not going to play Imp Master next turn and get 2 daggers or something stupid.
Imp Master.
So,
a Razorfin Hunter new metagame.
Right, it's not going to be in a Druid deck.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. I know it can happen, and I'm sure there's people. I mean, I've played them in Druid before and tried to get off pick Savage Wars. Doesn't really work that well. Now, when it works, it's really cool, but it's just really not Dog's style. So to see him go for the Noyatron here, it's not a really big risk, because he's not going to be able to get multiple triggers out of this knife juggler. So it's kind of scary, but it's not really scary. Yep, so he is going to go for that.
All right.
Water
well,
elemental
there
is really
yeah.
Water elemental is really interesting too. We have not talked enough about this water elemental in his hand.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, this is going to be one of the toughest minions for the Druid to remove. He's got no way to really handle. Oh my god!
Oh my gosh!
This couldn't have been more on curve.
I think you know what kind of draw that is.
Yeah, it's a huge draw.
Oh, it's definitely a huge one.
Whoa, Tinkertown! Is this the mech Druid? I remember Dog played a mech Druid with ramp. He was running 2 shredders, two sky golems, 2 mech warpers. Basically, the mech warpers were additional wild growths in his deck. That's what I remember from him. Very early in GVG, that was his go-to deck.
Is he playing it with Azure Drake though, and Savage Roar, and Force of Nature?
Yeah, that's what the deck.
I mean,
was.
I guess he is. He's got a Tinkertown Technician in his hand. I mean, your story checks out. I don't think he like got to 28 cards and was like, yeah, you know what, deck builder, fill out these last 2 cards randomly for me. And it's like Tinkertown Technician and Booty Bay Bodyguard.
Yeah, that sounds very good. Well, oh man, this is such a difficult position for the. I mean, that Innervate coin play was pretty strong, but this Water Elemental is gonna feel soul crushing if it gets played. How does Dog really answer it if it does come out?
It's tough to say. I think I just like playing 2 Mad Scientists. You didn't see a Wrath from your opponent, so I think you're comfortable kind of thinking he just doesn't have one. The Frostbolt's okay as well. I mean, this is going to set up a ping next turn, and you have damage on the board, and it makes sure that you can't get a Mad Scientist wasted.
Yeah, and what I like about that is that it sets up a really good curve with the Water Ellie on turn 6 with a ping.
It also protects your 5/2. So all of those things are very good reasons to Frostbolt.
Well, this Drake needs to go.
Hyped playing Tinkertown Technician, this makes sense. I see this in his hand and I go, I get it.
Well, what you haven't seen is the Dr. Boom Tinkertown Technician play the Boom Bots, you know?
Oh, that sounds so strong right now.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Dr. Boom is that after I play him, I can play my Tinkertown Technicians and get +1/+1.
Yeah, you're gonna blow up your opponent. Yeah, because you need those, time rewinders, and when you get them, you can replay Dr. Boom, so you get twice the boom, and if you get twice the boom, you get twice the wins.
Does he have Black Knight in here too, so when he gets Rusty Horn, he can blow up one of his opponent's minions?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
he's cool. And he's also got Blingtron with Harrison Jones, in case you're wondering about the secret
He's
text.
just putting in every 2-card combo that has some sort of weird endgame effect.
I was talking with him yesterday, and he actually included Lore Walker Show and Millhouse Manastorm in the deck, so that if his opponent could play spells for free, at least he'd get them.
Noctis, you are part of CompLexity, but I do not believe that you had that conversation.
Oh, I absolutely did. Alright, so there is a mirror entity here.
If you said absolutely.
God, that would have been so good. Wait, absolutely. Everybody who says absolutely is absolutely lying, right? Is that the motto?
But you just said absolutely twice. That means that means Noxious lied.
Oh man, Bible thump.
Ruined chat. This is not an easy position to deal with, by the way. He's at 14 and has no way to kill the Water Elemental.
I guess you Force of Nature and set up and kill. Oh man, what do you kill?
Well, you
kind of have to fawn here. Innervate Boom
doesn't really work very well because your opponent has what you're almost 100% positive is a mirror entity, and if it's not a mirror entity, you would get the news for that when you played Innervate.
And then
is the other one that it can sometimes be, which is pretty rare, is Innervate. I mean, it's Counterspell. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Counterspell. You know what? One day I want somebody to come up to a tournament with spellbenders all over the place. Well, that Blast Mage is going down, but
I've tried to play Spellbender. You know, Spellbender actually. There's been Blessing of Kings like rolling up in some of the Paladin decks.
Yeah.
Spellbender is not too bad versus Blessing of Kings.
And I mean, Hyped has such a lead on this board here, and I really like his decision to go with Mage here. That was such an obvious and strong play.
I think it's really funny that there's 4 Tinkertown Technicians available, and nobody had a mech on the board.
I think he just needs to show them. No, he can't. No, he has to hide it. He can't
I
show
think
that.
so too. I wouldn't do anything. I mean, you still can't kill the water elemental and kill everything else. I would concede this game and
Well, you can
not
force the
show my
nature to
opponent
innervate
weakness.
Savage Roar, right? Like, you
You
can do
could
it.
do that, but how do you actually? I mean, I guess if you draw like a miracle swipe or something next turn. Oh, he's gonna still fight for the game.
Oh, man. That takes... Hey, if he gets a... What's it called? The thing that freezes. The emergency coolant. It's... You could freeze one of the minions and live at least one turn in theory.
It's a pretty accurate name for it right now.
Time Rewinder, that's nothing. I think he's dead.
I bet he can really, wishing he could really rewind. I botched this joke. I'm just gonna throw it away.
Rewinded that turn.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Couldn't put the words together. Damn it, I'm an idiot. So,
It's fine, man. It happens.
Dog's
We've been
gonna drop
casting for
this
7
game.
hours now. It's been pretty crazy.
It's been a bit. Dog's is gonna drop this game. Hype's gonna win it with his mech mage, and so that's gonna be locked now. Tying up the series, 1 game apiece.
Yep, and so that leaves Hyped with, he's got, as far as his lineup goes, he's got a Hunter and Druid left, and Dog has his Druid and his Mage. So I feel like Dog choosing to go Mage is probably a good idea here, because if he picks Mage, at worst he runs into Hunter, and at best he runs into Druid, and that's a matchup that we just saw can be won by the Mage quite convincingly.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the better ones that's out there. At the end of the day, I don't think it matters too terribly much. Again, he's still...
Yeah.
Conquest has really changed the pick dynamic in that picking is really about going with what classes you bring and a lot less about what order you queue your lineup in against your opponent.
Mhm.
It was still relevant last Hero Standing. I have really bad hiccups, by the way. It still has relevance in last Hero Standing, but it's not nearly as relevant as it is in Conquest.
Yeah, you want to make sure
sorry,
that...
reverse that.
Reverse that, yeah.
It's not
more
nearly as
relevant.
relevant in Conquest
Yep.
as it was in last Hero Standing to get your lineup, like what order you picked your classes in, very
Exactly.
well.
'Cause you had to start with a well-rounded deck, and then if they brought control, you brought the anti-control, and the idea was to basically always counter the next deck, and that led to very huge swings where generally whoever gets the first win had a pretty good edge as far as counter picking on his own terms.
Yeah, getting the first win was really important about that. That was really like one of the reasons I think Firebat won Worlds, is because said that in his, when he was trying to figure out what deck his opponent was going to lead with, he had it in 90% accuracy with what decks they were going to pick.
Okay, so that really, just by knowing that in a last hero standing format, that gives him a huge edge.
Oh yeah.
So
being able to think through that and figure it out is just, that's something outstanding. But
yeah,
we're going to be going with Hype's going to be playing Hunter.
And Dog is probably going to be playing Mage, and he does play Mage, in fact, so as planned. So Dog is going to be getting a Mage versus Hunter matchup. I don't hate it, but I have to say it's not one that I'm eager to go into because of it's kind of a coin flip matchup. I wouldn't give the edge to either of the players before we see the starting hands.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, it always comes down to starting hand. The cards you draw do matter. So the sake of, how consistent is the deck versus how not consistent is the deck, that's really the difference between building a good deck and building a bad deck is, consistency plays a big part in that.
Yeah.
So I would tend to say that when players get all the right cards that Mage, because we know that Hype's not playing a Face Hunter, that Mage probably has a slight advantage here.
Right, because it's mid-range, it's slightly slower, so if the Mage gets that early snowball going and the Hunter can't answer it effectively, I mean, Freezing Trap is a big deal when you're playing Mech Mage, but that can be denied somewhat to the point where it's not really going to be that much of a problem. That's one of those tempo swings that Hunter really wants to get, but if you're feeding a Cogmaster, a Mana Worm, or, a Clockwork Gnome into it, it's really not that big of a deal for you.
Yeah, it certainly isn't. Game 3 gonna get underway here, and again, opening hands really, really mattering a lot. It's emphasized, I think, in this matchup.
Oh my!
Wait a second. We mentioned this before the last time we saw a Mage queued up, and it was Freeze Mage. And again, Dog just got back from China with Tempo Storm. He was playing in gosh, what is the name of this event? I cannot remember this for the life of me.
Me neither.
He just got back from China with Tempo Storm. He was filling in as a substitute for a team event they went to. And so I'm positive a ton of strategy talk went on in that span of time. And Rayned was playing Freeze Mage. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that that Dog is playing Freeze Mage as well.
Well, that's going to be a pretty interesting matchup. It is mid-range Hunter, in fact, containing one Abusive Sergeant for the sake of trading up. It's a card that's been seeing quite a bit of play. The question is whether or not Dog is going to be super aggressive about dropping his Doomsayer. It's one of the things you have to do in this matchup is, you know, as soon as the opponent starts to get something down on the board, you have to try to buy yourself time by just dropping a Doomsayer on its own to stall the Hunter. Somewhere around like turn 3 or 4.
These guys are playing so fast.
Yeah, the turns don't even match. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What is casting and how can you allow me to do it?
This is what Speed Hearthstone would look like in Blizzard.
And I would love it.
Please give me this mode, Blizzard.
I played Blitz Chess for the longest time. I was like 1950 ELO last I played. That's like my favorite chess mode. I've played all types of chess modes, but that was really the one that I remember and am most fond of. So if Hearthstone got that, I think I'd be playing that all day long.
I remember the first time I ever played Blitz Chess. I think I was 13 years old when I was still, and it was when I was first playing chess in general, and I played competitively. Okay. And I was like, you know what? I'm really terrible at this Blitz Chess. Because I was like the life coach of the 13-year-old bracket for chess, man. Okay. I was like, I got 30 minutes on my clock and I'm using all 30.
Yeah. The Blitz is just a complete new format when you've never played it before. Well, Hyped is going to be going for a trade with the Haunted Creeper. I guess he doesn't want to overextend into a possible Nova Doomsayer, and I can't blame him. Without having an RB Cal in hand, you may not be willing to do that.
Yeah, really, he's choosing to spread out the minions with his Haunted Creeper here, but I don't really blame him for it. He's got to get damage rolling. And if he intends to play the Piloted Shredder, having the Haunted Creeper available isn't quite as important. You do just want to spread your damage out and kind of force your opponent to really get stuff done.
Well, that is a Nova Doomsayer.
Yeah, splitting up the minions here, actually, too, it's not too terribly relevant where he places this Shredder, but it does go between his minions, which is really important. And the other thing it does is it forces him to, like, if he's going to Kona Cold, he's obviously going to Kona Cold to hit the Piloted Shredder, but it makes sure this way that it hits the Web Spinner so he gets a beast off of it, too.
Yep. I guess you could kill the Spiderlings, but then he leaves the beast up. So that's really perfect positioning on Hype's end. Steady shot and probably a hero power here. He doesn't have to rush. Hero power bow and it's gonna have to get a high main. And we haven't seen polymorph at all in so long. And he gets a beast out of that web spinner. Oh my god, this is actually incredible.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good in this matchup.
Yeah, it's probably the best matchup.
There's not a ton of ways to kill it.
Oh man, you have to. Oh, I don't know about that.
The beast is bigger than a core hound. How could you not play the beast? Oh, jeez.
The game-winning card here for the Hunter. If anything beats Freeze Mage, it's Ragnaros.
Way back in the day, I'm talking, this is like Fight Night era, Reels put a polymorph in his almost said Freeze Mage, in his Freeze Mage deck. And it was there specifically for Ragnaros because it was giving him so much trouble. And pre-Naxxramas, almost everyone played Ragnaros until Miracle became basically the most popular deck. And even then, people still played a ton of Ragnaros. But in this, like right here, it's so bad for Hyped. I'm sorry, it's so bad for Dog.
For Dog, yeah.
It's in his opponent's hand right now.
I don't even know what you do. I mean, like you just play more stuff on the board, and then if something comes out, you Loatheb, right? I mean, I don't know. This is such a terrible position.
You really want to save the Loatheb for a really key turn, like before
when you're about to lock the win.
Well, it's right when your opponent is about to play Alexstrasza under an ice block. You pop their ice block and then play Loatheb, and then they have to play another ice block. And because you popped the other one, you could pop this one because they had to use all their mana to play an ice block. And then they can't Alexstrasza you and they can't beat you.
Well, that's a lot of damage coming Dog's way. And honestly, unless he finds his second Doomsayer with that Nova.
Yeah.
Oh man, at least the second ice block's been summoned for free. Hyped had faced Amaz earlier, who got no secrets out of his Mad Scientist, but
I'm actually really surprised that he attacked this Mad Scientist. He attacked the Mad Scientist here, because all he's doing is pulling a secret out of his opponent's deck. Like, you want him to draw it, I'm pretty sure. That's actually really interesting.
Is this a good turn for Archmage Icelance? It feels kind of wonky to me, but
he just needs a fireball, and he wants to make sure he doesn't take too much damage. The Archmage may be perceived as a threat. And
so you go Archmage, Alex win,
Right, and then he just plays the Alexstrasza, and then, if the ice block doesn't get popped the turn. Oh, he isn't the second ice block in his hand, so even if
he's got a second one.
He just needs to get ice. He needs to get Alex Strauss on the board with enough damage to kill his opponent before his ice block gets popped. So
exactly.
Archmage and Ice Lance makes all the sense in the world. If he had a Frostbolt, he wouldn't be playing this Archmage Antonidas.
Yeah, definitely. Now, but this is actually probably like, oddly enough, from this position, I didn't think Dog would be able to do much, but this Ice Lance is going to allow him to get on curve the Fireball that he needs to lock the game after the Alex Strauss play.
Yeah.
This is going to be really crucial. And, I mean, Hypta has to trade into it because you can't let that Archmage live. That's a lot of damage before the block gets popped for Dog.
4, 7, 8, 10. It's only got 18 potential damage this turn. So yeah, I would agree with you. I think he does have to kill this Archmage. If he could pop the block this turn, I think it might be worth gambling. Because then whether it pops the block or whether it hits the Archmage Antonidas, I don't think is that much of a difference. At that point, I'd have to really sit down and think about that turn. And see how it panned out. And your opponent could Fireball, Ice Block ping you. You can go to 21. Pop Ice Block again. Yeah, they would be able to kill you, so it would make a lot of sense to... It also makes a lot of sense to do it this way since you anticipate getting Alex Strauss.
Yeah, you expect your health to not matter if it's above 15, essentially, so...
Yeah, that was a good play.
Yeah, Dog's gonna go for the Alex, the obvious Alex, and Hype's gonna counter with immediate Lothar, but that second Ice Block is... Actually, would it be enough? I don't even know if it is, because Lothar falls down, Ice Block gets popped. 50% of the time, at the very least. Actually, High Main can just kill Alex, and then the block doesn't get popped. Oh man, that's gonna be a 50-50 Ragnaros hit.
Yeah, I mean, this draw is gonna be important.
This Defender, that is nothing for this specific case, but...
12, 13, 14, 15... No. 8, 12, 13, 14... Yeah, that's great. He can pop the block now and play Lothar. Oh no, he doesn't have the mana to do it!
That's exactly what I'm saying! He's just super short of getting the guaranteed pop, right? That is the problem.
Oh, he's just got to gamble then, doesn't he?
It's a 50-50 before otherwise the block pops.
12, 13, 14... Yeah, it's gonna
be tricky. He has to pop the block and kill Alex.
I think it's one of the worst parts about being immune is that if you're immune, the Ragnaros can still hit you. It doesn't always just hit a minion.
Yeah.
I'm curious if it would hit a minion actually. This is something I haven't tested. Is
after the immunity?
After the immunity, if there's a minion on board. Because I know if there's no minion on board, the animation will go off and do 0 damage to the opponent. But if they have a minion on board, I'm curious if it will hit the minion always.
No, it doesn't. I've hit face a few times and it does nothing.
You could have saved me all those words.
What do you want? I'm trying to increase your WPM.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that...
Wait, is he popping the block even? He's not.
Oh, he doesn't. He can't guarantee it. Yeah, so he's just gonna hope this hits the face. That is actually really important too.
Oh man, Dog knows this is it. I mean, how are you supposed to win?
Wow.
This was
Alex
the 50-50. That was it.
I think it was it. Alex Strauss has to attack through this. I mean, it's just Alex is dead next turn, and Hype doesn't have enough damage in his hand to deal all of it. So
this was a 50-50.
He's going to go to 13. Yeah, he can't even draw.
Wait, yes. Arcane Intellect into Frostbolt, Ice Lance, Fireball. Is that lethal?
He has a Fireball in hand.
Yeah, but he could just get a Frostbolt, Ice Lance.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 plus 6 is 13. No, he's even short on that.
Yeah. Arcane Int, Frostbolt, Ice Lance at 6 plus Fireball, but he would be one off, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't have the damage to actually get it done.
He would be one off lethal. If he does get those perfect draws.
It's so brutal.
Yeah, that's a really brutal outcome that Ragnaros... I mean, he decides
he can still win. Okay, if Ragnaros hits face again, and he has anti-Healbot somewhere in his deck. I mean, is there a chance he has anti-Healbot in here?
I've seen a single version of it have that, but it's...
Yeah, I've seen it like one-ofs at time.
Yeah, so you heal blood and then Nova. But then I mean, that's... Oh, man.
Okay, hang on a second. What if he gets another Frostbolt? And no, it's not happening. The dream is dead. Dog is going to drop this game, and he is bitter, and you can see him shaking his head about it. Just all the difference on one Ragnaros.
And I think this is kind of the power of Ragnaros, really, because it's a card that, like, it has a a lot of people speak out against RNG in general, and I think it gets overplayed a lot. I think it's a lot more obvious to people now that there's a lot of RNG involved because of piloted shredders being everywhere. But the only RNG that used to be present was essentially Ragnaros and Sylvanas, and that was kind of a small amount of it. Besides the top card draw, top decks, and whatnot. Besides that, those used to be the only cards. So Ragnaros is kind of the old school RNG card, and it's gotten so much. So many wins were gotten on the back of just that 50-50 or sometimes 25% shots to the face.
The way I look at Ragnaros is that when you're ahead, Ragnaros is good, and when you're behind, Ragnaros isn't always bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's like it doesn't do anything.
Yep.
And I think that's an okay come from behind style mechanic. Is that in a game that doesn't inherently have any mechanical skill in it, or at least not entirely mechanical skill. We did see it matter early in this tournament.
Talento, APM.
In a game that isn't like based around mechanical skill, there really isn't like a comeback mechanic, and sort of the nature of cards that the way that you come back from mechanic is if you fell behind in percentages, here's this thing that can sometimes even it out.
Yeah.
So Ragnaros, I think it's good, pretty good at doing that. It's not quite like piloted shredder RNG where you trade your piloted shredder into theirs and they get a 3 power minion and you get a 1 power minion. Like that's an awful feeling.
They get Millhouse, you get Campton's Barrett. There's a big difference there.
Yeah, those are very different kinds of RNG.
Hyped is going to be moving on to his last deck, the Druid, but Dog is going to be sticking with his Mage, and I feel like if Hyped is playing an aggressive Druid with double combo, Freeze Mage can have quite a tough time beating them. I mean, it can be really, really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, Druid's one of those classes where it's just kind of got Mage in check. It's got big enough minions that they don't die to stuff like Mad Scientist and Loot Hoarder. They're powerful enough that they start getting damaged in quick. If you don't check their board position, they have ways to amplify their damage. And this Druid's even got Lotheb and Ragnaros in it, which you don't always see. A lot of times you see Lotheb, but sometimes you don't. And Ragnaros has certainly become a lot more rare in Druid, I would say lately.
I've seen less and less of it in this Keeper of the Grove. Then again, it's a pretty slow start for Hyped, so if the mana ramps up and the Mage is able to get to that mid game without being too worried, that could be really problematic for him. And BGH for Alex Straza, it feels like Hyped really pinned Dog on a Freeze Mage somehow. Unless I'm misreading this, but this looks like a perfect player read.
Yeah, it's definitely looking pretty good for him.
By the way, you said there's no mechanical skills, but there's a lot of APM tricks, right, in the game that people can pull off?
I'm listening.
Like you can ping Noble Sacrifice when it triggers, right? If you're fast enough. And it's not going to train to your minions.
Can you really?
Yeah, there's like even more advanced techniques. Like you can have, like, if you have 2 Shadowtongue Clerics, if you play the first one, and instead of targeting something, you cancel the buff. As it's going back to your hand, if you play the second Cleric and you click it fast enough, you can get the Cleric to a 4/3, and it's going to be a permanent 4/3 in your hand.
I'm going to test you on this one. I don't believe you. You just wasted 40 minutes of my time today. If you're lying to me about it.
No, but it's the same thing with Doomguard and Double Soulfire. If you have 2 Soulfires and a Doomguard, and your APM is like... You need about like 400 APM for that one, though. You just play Doomguard, and you drag
that smile off your face right now. I can see it. Don't think I can't. All right.
All right. I was going to try
You
to
still
get
wasted 40 minutes. You still wasted 40 minutes of my time. I'm still going to go try it, but I'm not going to be happy about it until it works.
Yeah. Well, there's still the Wildfire Master Unleash the Hounds as well, but that's like 600 APM plus. And I honestly, unless you're playing StarCraft, Pro Dwarf for like the longest time, you're not going to pull that off.
You just have a secret trigger as you're playing all those things. So that way you'll get the dogs and you can have time to attack before the Wildfire.
Exactly. Just wait. Oh, man. You have to have the Knife Juggler up to slow down the animation. Alright, well, back to the game. I kind of lost track, but basically slow start for the Druid, and the Lotheb fell down just as Dog probably wanted to play as Doomsayer, but he's going to sacrifice this one because he knows he's got another one on the back end. So even though Hyped will feel pretty confident that his first, he's able to answer Doomsayers, the second one being there is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that he chose to go for the silence on
the Acolyte, yeah.
In here. And
yeah,
so
I'm surprised as well.
Here's what he's got to be looking at: is he sees this Doomsayer hit the board, and he knows he's going to attack it, but he's got to be thinking, why in the world is he running a Doomsayer onto the board right now? The answer might be because he was under Lothar, but he didn't have a spell to cast, and he didn't want to burn a card. But it
It's
happened.
like an ice barrier here, basically. That's all it is.
Happened pretty quickly, right? So, but sort of the bigger point I'm making of right now is: can he begin to construct a hand range at all when he throws away this Doomsayer? Does he ever put his opponent on a second one?
I think so, about 100% of the time. I mean, I can't see why not. The thing is, he can answer that with Swipe and Wrath, right? So he's not too worried about that.
Yeah, I like the charge here. Just go face damage. You're not too worried about not too worried about board sweeps. You know, they're going to happen, and since they're going to happen and freeze effects are going to happen, all that sort of stuff, you really want to get in as much damage as you can.
Well, the first Blizzard came down, so more minions on this board will just mean more sacrifices from Hyped. He's going to be digging through his deck, and really that's what you've got to do as Druid. You need to fetch that combo. You need to try to get that, 22 damage combo on the mage before he can do anything.
Yeah, definitely going to get... Damage is so important in this matchup.
Yeah. Well, he gets a Keeper of the Grove top deck. He can Wrath for card draw. He wants to dig through that deck as fast as possible.
Yeah, typically, a lot of times, you can save Wrath in this matchup to make sure that you can help fight against an Alex Strauza when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have Big Game Hunter in your hand, you don't have to worry about that.
So there's a good line of play here that I like. Frost Nova Doomsayer forces a silence from your opponent, right? And if he does that, then he is overextending into your Blizzard and Flame Strike. So you're essentially baiting out even more commitment to the board.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It also gets a second silence out of his hand, so when you freeze stuff in the future, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, you're not going to get surprised by double roar. Sounds like Keeper of the Grove.
Now, that being said, it still might just be better to Flame Strike and save your freeze.
Oh, is he thinking about Ice Block, Frostbolt, Ice Lance for the in the future turns? Because he can't do that now, obviously. But
3, 6,
plus 8, so 11, 14, 21. He's not there.
Damage. He's just going to keep waiting for Alex Strauza. Blizzard here is totally fine too.
Yep.
This does really put a big hurt on Hype's board. He's going to have to redevelop this position as it is. And Zombie Chow, I would venture to say, is going to stay in his hand.
I mean, playing it is good because it's only good because it's a body for Savage Roar. But if you expect the board to go away, that's
a good point. Like if he plays this Zombie Chow, and he's thinking to himself, maybe he doesn't have a Flame Strike, and maybe he just didn't see Frost Nova Doomsayer in a position where I think he was very likely to see it, and so he might be concluding that he doesn't have a Doomsayer.
Yeah.
Something like a freeze of Doomsayer. Gosh, this is tough.
Yeah, this is really difficult.
I really don't know if I play this Zombie Chow or not.
I feel like it's almost a drawback because you have to then fetch for 5 more damage. Where do you find that? I mean, you have to use your swipes to the face at that point.
I don't think
there's a BGH for Alex Strauza.
I don't think it's worth the risk.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think just hero power, you dome him a little bit for 1, and that's about it.
Is he thinking about cycling this Wrath, maybe?
Wild Growth. Okay, so he's going to be trying to get the... I think what he's trying to go for is the Force of Nature Savage Roar double combo ASAP.
Well, the other thing this could do is if you just take how much damage he has with the Azure Drakes. He's got 8 damage there. 2 Savage Roars at 6 damage apiece. That's 20 damage. And then he has enough with the swipe to deal the extra points.
To deal the extra, yeah.
So Wild Growth in here put him on 10 mana, which gave him the ability to lethal this turn if Dog didn't freeze the board.
Oh man, when a Force of Nature hits this, it's going to be 22 damage exactly, but he has to pop the block first.
Yeah, he can still take out this this Doomsayer, by the way, which I think he's what he's going to do, and I don't think he's going to use his silence. I don't necessarily think he's going to use his silence to do it.
Well, you could silence one of your own Drakes, really.
He's going to use silence for sure now. He's just got all the damage in the world locked up.
If he plays that Shade, that Flame Strike is going to be the tastiest Flame Strike Dog has ever seen.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't have minded seeing just a swipe that turn instead.
Of the Keeper, right?
Yeah, but...
We'll see.
Gosh, it's really hard to put your opponent on Flame Strike here.
Well,
yeah,
it's
I think
definitely coming down.
Actually, I think I just would have gotten busted by Flame Strike. The more and more I think about it, the more it seems like Flame Strike is just the only thing I would have done.
Well, Ragnaros is here.
But there's a Doomsayer body to absorb a hit.
So you kill that Loot Horde and you drop the Rag, force the opponent to waste Fireball, Frostbolts, and Ice Lances on anything if you want. Well, you
my
can even
swipe
innervate the Rag here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as I
that's
say, it's
crazy.
like innervate swipe with Ragnaros is probably going to be his best bet.
But wait, Frostbolt, Frostbolt, Ice Lance, Fireball, Pyroblast. That's as good as it gets for a Freeze Mage.
Yeah, it's going to be 6, 10, 14,
And he draws one more card even.
20.
If he
That's
finds
30.
the...
That's 30 damage, yeah.
That's lethal. Over 2 turns, in fact, which means...
Is that the kind of investment you want to make right now, though? I think these next couple of draws are really going to dictate some stuff.
If he finds a Fireball, I'm definitely doing it. Cone of Cold, irrelevant. Oh man, if he had gone for that though, he would have won on the following turns. He would win next turn, guaranteed, unless Hyped finds healing. Because even if he armors up, is...
Yeah, I think... I wonder if he's counting it now, and he's realizing that he just played the Mad Scientist, and he was like, oh wait.
Yeah, well, Doug does that a lot. Doug really makes the mistake of, you know, playing too quickly. But he's still going to be able to find the lethal because of the ping. If it wasn't for the ping that he could get next turn off the Fireball, like, he's going to win over 2 turns now, instead of winning, you know, as soon as he wants. It's going to be a slower win, but at least he's going to manage. Oh, and he would have gotten punished.
Oh my gosh.
He would have gotten so punished.
As Dog chooses to invest that much damage in the Hyped's life total, Hyped draws Ancient of Lore. Look at good guy Mad Scientist just absorbing that hit.
Oh, Blood
Even
Mage.
drew Blood Mage. Oh, yeah, this is so unlucky.
You go Blood Mage, Frostbolt, Ice Lance, and you can't call the board. Yeah, you can even call the board on the back of that, right? Yes, you can. You can kill the Shade by, you know, hitting the Ancient, and you're dealing an incredible amount of damage.
You don't get the ping in then. You need the ping to be able to deal 10 damage next turn with.
You'll find a Fireball at the top, right? I mean, you better believe in the.
Oh, you know, he actually would have to have a removal spell there.
Yeah.
To assure himself against that.
Oh, he pings right now. Doesn't even Cone of Cold. Says, you know what?
He should. I mean, he should ping. Even if his block is popped, it's not that big a deal.
Good game. This is it. Mage wins this. Wow, I can't believe Mage
Hype.
won against a Druid. I mean, this is such... I wouldn't say a lopsided matchup, but I feel like Mage...
He draw every burn spell in his deck?
Missing one Fireball.
No, he's missing one Fireball, yeah. He's almost every burn spell in his deck, so... pretty good stuff. I mean, Hyped was on the verge of being able to close this. That Blood Mage, though, that was another really big draw.
Yeah.
Right after that Ancient Lore.
It was necessary, otherwise the game was over unless he was top decking the following Fireball, man. This was a crazy streak of top decks by both players. I mean, Hype needed the Ancient Lore to live, and then Dog needed the Blood Mage or the Fireball to then win. Well, I mean, Hype has to know his opponent is on a Pyroblast, otherwise, why would you do that, right?
Yeah, still, you gotta make him see it, though.
Yep.
You always make him have it.
And there's always the chance that he's playing on an iPad and he drags the Pyroblast and hits himself in the face. You know, Forsen style. Was that Forsen or was that ECOP? Yeah, it was ECOP with Frostbolt. Yes, I remember that.
Dog is not going to accidentally Frostbolt or Pyroblast himself in the face, and as a result, is going to tie this series up at 2 games apiece. And so Hyped now, you know, it always irks you to lose those matchups that I think are significantly favorable.
Yeah, definitely. And but then again, you know, Dog did lose the Mage, not the Mage, but the Mage versus Hunter. Yes. That was really on a 50-50. That was really, you know, heavy coin flip. And generally speaking, Mage has a pretty good chance in that matchup. But unfortunately for him, the Rag hit. But he then manages to, you know, equalize 2-2, which means we're going to have one last game. Dog is going to be forced into playing his Druid, I think. Yep. So we're going to see what type of Druid it is. And, you know, and Hyped is going to be playing his Druid as well. It's going to be a mirror match of probably the most consistent and swingy, I guess. It really depends on the wild growth and the interface for those matchups.
Yeah, it always matters a lot in that situation. And so I'm really looking forward to this because Druid has changed a lot since GVG has come out. You know, it's basically got the same core, but the minions it plays specifically line up a lot differently, and Black Knight has basically all but been extinct in Druid decks for quite a while now.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, if...
higher competitive scene.
Yeah, definitely. And if Dog is playing Ramp, then suddenly the matchup looks a little different for both players. But we'll see exactly what they're playing. I wouldn't be surprised to just see a double combo. I mean, we've seen Hype's Druid. We just have to see what Dog has brought. And it's the... Oh, yeah,
we already see Dogs.
Yeah,
we're so stupid. Ignore everything we said. We're awful.
What's the point of a caster if you can't cast properly? I'm going out. Goodbye.
You just actually leave.
I'm physically leaving the screen. Oh, there's a wild growth in Dog's hand, so I give him the edge on this one. What about you?
Well, his hand is really weird, so I don't
No,
know.
it's really good for this type of deck. For this mech deck, it's like an amazing hand.
Well,
Oh
he
my!
also gets innervate,
goodness.
so and Hyped's hand is pretty garbo right now. You know, he's got the old 20 mana in hand. Wow, he
Yep.
doesn't innervate out a spider tank. I'm shocked.
Ah, okay, wait. Yeah, that would have been pretty terrible, though. Now that you think of it, it would have been terrible, but I think it would have still been better because you can handle. Oh man, now
Why
Hype
would that
gets
have been
initiative.
terrible? It's he just.
Oh, come on.
I mean, his
you
entire
still
deck
get
is
to turn
based.
to wild growth.
His entire deck is based on getting initiative.
He needs to find.
I guess he's saving it for this play so he can play this and then. I mean, this is the exact same thing.
This is the perfect. Yeah, but you get the Tinkertown. He would have gotten one turn earlier and gotten the zombie
Yeah, he
chowder.
just
I
would have gotten
guess.
3 extra damage.
I don't see the. I'm gonna have to ask him what he was thinking about.
I think he might have, you know, with the way that, with how fast he's been playing, he might have just clicked end turn before he saw what his card was, and then he saw it was innervate. It was like, oh,
Yeah, Doug is the most impatient player, and when I say impatient, I don't mean it in a, you know, he doesn't tend to be. It's not a flaw of him. It's just that he plays very quickly and doesn't necessarily always go in depth. When there's an obvious play, he might just not bother looking at it. And he's made some substantial mistakes. I mean, there was a tournament I was casting with Monk, I believe. This was the charity event for Kinguin, and he did make. He took about 4 extra damage from attacking the wrong target, I believe. So he's gotten a lot better at it, though. So he's definitely improved his game as far as playing a bit slower to spot the optimal play.
always something to be thinking about.
Ugh, you. Well, yeah, I'm just
Hyped.
curious. Like, Hyped has to trade his shade, but it almost feels too early, right? Like, you just don't want to.
It feels so bad.
Yeah, like you can't trade your shade, but you at the same time, if you let him snowball for 7 damage a turn, you're
take
just
a-
gonna get knocked out
Take
of the
a
game.
little less damage this way, not too much more, or not too much less.
Yeah, and Dog has an amazing oh goodness,
Oh
yes.
gosh, this
You want
keeps
to talk
getting better.
about an amazing
Yes,
follow-up?
this Spider Tank is definitely going to hit this zombie chow now. He does not want his opponent to hero power this. And there is no clean swipe right now either, so I don't think he's worried about a single thing.
Oh, look at that turn from Hype, a complete blank. I think this is every druid's nightmare.
No, he's only got 37 mana worth of cards in his hand that he can't play on turn 4. This is a great hand for him, right?
You're right, I'm actually mistaken. Sorry, I misread that. I thought he
Oh
had...
my gosh. You know, this is sort of like this is the double-edged sword of Druid. Is that Druid is very powerful when it opens correctly, and when Druid draws poorly, I just don't think that there's actually a way that you can win the game.
Yeah, and I feel like right now, what Dog is considering is, do I want to get that 1 extra damage? And if I do, what does it do to me to play it now? And I almost feel like it's nice to push for damage, but the drawback is you can't surprise your opponent with a really good trade. You know, you can't kill a Drake with that 3-2 because your opponent will not play into it.
It going on the Mech Warper is, I think this is the best target. Spider Tank is lined up for Keeper. If he wraths either one of the 3 power minions now, it doesn't really matter which one he wraths. He's still got 3 power on the board. And Piloted Shredder obviously has a very big target on its forehead to begin with, so you probably want to try to spread all that stuff out.
Yep, and this is going to be... Oh, wow.
Now, ironically, had he put it on
yeah.
the Piloted Shredder, he could have hero powered it this turn. But
This is what I said, right? Like, he really needs to consider it before he gives the play away, but ultimately, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. He's so far ahead on this board.
Oh, it's still the right
Crazy.
spot. I mean, the Mech Warper is still the right spot to put it.
Yep.
I think.
Well, I mean, he plays Sylvanas in the hopes that things go well, but this is like Hyped is throwing this thing down, but he's dead now.
This is just lethal, yeah.
Wow,
it's just-
this is gonna be the
That's brutal.
quickest
This is
Druid
like-
versus. I mean, this is Druid versus Druid in a nutshell.
Oh gosh. Well, not quite. I mean, this does happen from time to time. This is more akin to drawing both your freezing traps and both your mad scientists. It's
Yeah.
really more a lot alongside of that. It's like, you know, you play all these top end cards for a reason. Once you get later into the game, you have a higher draw density.
Exactly.
But when you draw everything that early, it's just like you're just not going to win that game.
And I
And
mean,
that's really what it boils
Dog
down to.
had. I mean, he's playing mechs, right? So he's going for that synergy. He's going for the 3 mana 4/4. It's essentially like, when you play a Shade and it takes you 2 turns instead of that 4/4. Tinkertown is doing this very early. He's trying to take that lead as fast as possible. Mech Warper is a pseudo wild growth. You're getting Spider Tank, which is a pretty resistant 3-drop. So playing all those cards together, and this is a really old deck from Dog. It's just the deck that's been phased out since GVG kind of developed and progressed. People have just forgotten about Mech Druid, and so far, it seems that Dog's going to be able to take the series, and I think that puts him at 3-0 in the entire Kinguin League, and Hyped is going 2-1, which is not bad at all, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's been some pretty excellent stuff we've seen. Aside from, of course, there's always those unfortunate games where someone's going to drop out. That's kind of the nature of cards.
Yeah.
You're always gonna have one of those. But can't blame a guy for trying.
Yep, definitely. So that's going to be it for the day, guys. This is the last match that we had to cast. We are done at 6 matches total. We hope you enjoyed this entire thing. Now, again, I want to remind you that, every Friday, there's going to be a recap done by Callum Leslie from the Daily Dot. He's going to be doing a recap of what happened during the week, the highlights, probably getting, if he can, some player interviews, talk about the games, how things went. And that's going to be something you can catch up on if you didn't catch the entire week, which is very possible since this happens over 2 days, Tuesday and Thursday. And for the next Tuesday, the schedule is looking pretty sick. We have, Brian Kibler from Brian Kibler Gaming versus Strife Crow from Cloud9. And then as a second match, we have Amaz versus Reynad. So if there's anywhere you want to be on Tuesday, that it's probably when that match occurs. I mean, there's been a little bit of grudge between the two teams, so that's going to be a really intense, at least emotionally invested match. The third match is going to be Caldi versus Orange. Orange, who won the IEM, is so far not doing too well in the tournament, but still has a chance to win versus Caldi, maybe get himself a good win. RDU versus Dog afterwards. Dog is 3-0, and I believe RDU is 0-3. So that puts RDU again in a really tough spot where he needs to get that win to get himself back at the top of the roster. Then Frezar versus Savich, both players not performing as well as they'd like so far in the tournament, but this is going to be a good match for them. And Firebat versus Gara from Team Archon versus Tempo Storm. So that's another one of those rivalry matches that Admirable loves so much.
It's always my kind, man.
Yep.
Anytime there's something more on the line than just the game, that's where the matches I want to see are.
So that's it for the day, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Well, that's it for the week, rather. Aside from the the recap for tomorrow, we hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and until next week, take care of yourselves, and may the fun and the top decks be with you.